Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this first impressions walkthrough and exploration of the Seed and Sickle Oracle deck by Fez Inkwright. Y'all, I'm really excited to get into this one. So this is a new deck by the team at Liminal 11. Fez Inkwright is the creator of the deck, and this artwork is really, really beautiful. So excited to take a peek at this. I know a little bit about the way that this deck works because I have seen some other previews come through. Danny did a wonderful video on this deck, which I will link in the description box down below. But I got pretty excited about this deck when I saw her video. To be honest, it was not really on my radar before then, but Liminal 11 did send this to me for review, so I'm going to be getting into it, sharing my first impressions. As usual, Liminal 11 products come in this really nice hardbound box with a magnetic bottom closure. This is a really unique box design for them. It makes their decks, I think, very identifiable, which is lovely. And it seems like they've been sort of, I don't know if they've been standardizing their cardstock, but it seems to be that it's coming, their newer decks are coming out in matte cardstock that's easy to shuffle. And I forgot to look, hold on. They do this really beautiful thing where you open up the closure at the bottom and there's usually some kind of image. Here it says, one to wither, one to grow, one for the she, and one for the crow. Oh, wow. Oh, look at that. This is pretty. This inner box, look at that. Oh my gosh, it's like dusk and like dawn, dusk, or day and evening, morning, evening kind of feeling. And I think that coalesces because there are two guidebooks for this deck. Okay, I can't wait to get into this. So if you don't already know, the Liminal 11 boxes typically have slightly bigger books than their cards, but they do put a cardboard insert in that you can easily pull out. That wasn't always the case. I think they had one deck that came out with an insert that was kind of glued in. They're not glued in anymore, and the interior box is also decorated, which is super pretty. Oh, the backs of these cards are so pretty. Oh my gosh, there's so much light. Okay, we're going to go through these to take a look at the artwork. But this is the part that I am the most excited about. I'm not going to lie. Now, I am somebody that really thoroughly enjoys working with guidebooks that go along with decks. And when I first heard about Seed and Sickle, I had no idea about the two guidebooks. All I knew was that the cards had titles without keywords. And y'all know how I feel about that. So typically that makes a deck like this a deal breaker for me. However, this deck is designed to be worked with the guidebook, which kind of shifts my opinion a little bit. I don't think this is the kind of deck I would try to work with without the guidebooks. We are going to flip through all the art, but I'm probably going to spend more time talking about the guidebooks than the cards. But my understanding is that you go to the different guidebooks for different purposes for your reading. So we'll get into all of that in a moment. But first, let's zoom in, do a flip through of all the cards so you can see all the beautiful artwork. And then we're going to get into the guidebooks and how the deck is sort of meant to be used and all that good stuff. So right away, I love this art style. There's something about, I want to say it's like a vector style art or it's very digital art, but it's very clean and it's bright and pretty. So here we have the seed, birch. I like the little ribbons tied to the birch. As well as it looks like almost a moon in the center. Lily of the valley. Bracken. It's interesting, there seems to be some other symbol, on the card along with whatever the plant is. I'm kind of noticing. So there's these like ribbons and this kind of moon in the center in the birch. The seed was kind of just the seed or the sprout here. And then the lily of the valley had this bowl with the water kind of dripping into it. And the bracken has this hand. So I'll be interested to see kind of how that aligns with the meaning of the card. Wisteria. Oh, that's so lovely. There's such a softness, and this is a matte cardstock. Well, it's kind of, it's like, it feels like it's, no, I guess it's a satin. It's got just ever so much sheen that will catch the light just a bit, but it feels matte. Like I would call this matte. Buttercup. Ooh, poppy. Look at the skull shape in the background there, but it's not in your face. Cherry. Magnolia. Magnolia flowers are beautiful. Chickweed. Jasmine. I love jasmine. Cornflower. Pimpernel. Oak. Lightning and the acorn there. tulip, moonwort. What's moonwort? Lavender, bluebell. Ooh, a book. Foxglove, clover, belladonna. Now, I believe Fez Inkwright is also the author of 2 books that Liminal 11 has published on herbs and botanicals. And I believe one of those books is about maybe healing herbs. I could be making this up. I'll try to have a link to both books down below so you guys can see for yourself what I mean. But I know for sure one of the books was on poisonous plants or toxic plants. So you will see a mix of those, I think, in this deck. And I would imagine you'd get even more out of this deck if you've worked with Fez Inkwright's other books, or if you want to dive deeper into this, those books may be a wonderful resource. But these look like some chunky guidebooks, I'm just saying. All right, so we have rowan, clematis, willow, basil, daisy, hops, hawthorn, feverfew, mustard, asphodel. I might not be saying some of these right. If that is the case, I apologize. Mushroom. Lots of different mushroom types here. Or is it just, these look like oyster mushrooms to me. We have the moon cycles there. Oleander. Ugh, so beautiful. Dandelion. Elder. Ivy. Ragwort. Thistle. Crocus. Strawberry. Blackthorn, rose, that is so pretty, verbena, alder, bramble, citrus instead of a specific, that's interesting, agonite, that almost sounds like a crystal, right? Like not a plant, but that is obviously a plant, holly, mistletoe, chamomile, mandrake, henbane, datura, apple, and the sickle, which of course we see a sickle on the front of the box as well. All right, so those are the cards. Let's give them a bit of a shuffle, and then we're going to talk about the books, because that's what I want to talk about, because I feel like this is a deck that, like, the books are as much a part of the experience as the cards are, and I'm really excited about that. Okay, so let me just set this to the side for a moment. So you have a dawn guidebook and you have a dusk guidebook. So and these are like really nice and chunky. This is such an excellent change from what Liminal 11 normally has. They normally have much more slender, less wordy guidebooks, but I do think this might be the first Oracle deck that they've put out. I could be wrong, but I think this is the first one. So let's see what it says here in the beginning. Summer, exploration, the journey. Fall, change, reconnection, reward, nostalgia, and winter, planning, preparation, and repair. So there seems to be an element or a seasonal grouping of each of the, basically each of the cards in the deck falls into one of the 4 seasons, which is really interesting. So Fez says about the Dawn Guidebook, as with any Oracle deck, the Seed and Sickle is bursting with creative ways to be read. The deck itself is a journey through the year, divided into 4 seasons, from spring's heady growth to winter's steady preparation. Every section has new levels of wisdom to impart. Choose to either take your reading from each season or shuffle the entire year and let the cards read your path for you. Individual cards can be read in 2 ways, the dawn and the dusk, the rising and the resting, providing advice for every reader whether you're working towards a specific goal or focusing on your mental well-being. So, are you starting a new project, building new relationships, or revitalizing yourself? If you're undertaking a period of expansion and growth that will benefit you further down the line, let your day brighten with the rising sun and read the dawn meaning for advice on how best to get there. This booklet contains the dawn readings. Okay, so it says if you're looking for guidance on how to best take care of your body and mind, use the dusk booklet for a more holistic reading. So then the dusk guidebook has the same introduction, I'm guessing. Yes, here it is. So life isn't always about hard work. Sometimes you need to rest and reflect on yourself. Whether you're looking for guidance on how best to take care of your body and mind, seeking quiet inner guidance, or better flow with nature, take the route of the gentle moon and look to the dusk meaning of these cards for a mindful reading. This booklet contains the dusk readings for the deck. If you're starting a new project, building new relationships, or focusing on improving yourself, open the dawn booklet for readings that will guide you along the right path. And then you get a page for every single card, and it looks like there are also some spreads. So I think these will be different between the book. So it does say dusk. There's a page here on dusk versus dawn readings, and then it talks about the seed. There's some spreads. We have the seed in growth, the sickle, the spring equinox, fall equinox, the seed in the wild. This is quite a few spreads. And then there's some information about complementing the tarot. Interesting. And then these are the two books. So Folk Magic and Healing and Botanical Curses and Poisons. Those are the two books I was referring to. So then when we get back to the Dawn guidebook, let's see if the spreads are the same. Are they the same spreads? No, they're not. Excellent. Okay, so we get the seed and growth. I think that one's the same. The sickle, I think, is the same. But then we get the summer solstice spread and the winter solstice spread. So between the two, you have a spread for every season. And then the rest of that part looks the same. So all the write-ups are going to be different. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to pull out just a random 2 different cards, and we'll read both books to kind of see what the contrasting messages would be like. So I'm going to pull 2 cards so that we have 2 different samples. All right, so we're going to be looking at the mushroom card, and we're going to be looking at the moonwort card. So let's take a look at mushroom first, and we're going to look at the Dawn guidebook. So this is if we were looking at this card because we were looking to start a new project or expand in some way. And this is card number 31, and these look like they are in order of number. So just like fungus bodies that spread underground, hiding until they're ready to flourish upwards, you've been busy working away in the background. You're wearing yourself thin for the sake of those who don't even realize you've been burning the candle at both ends. If you're not careful, you'll reach a point where you'll burn yourself out. Catch this behavior before it gets out of control. Find someone to help with your workload or compromise on areas that don't require as much attention. Be your own helping hand and find a way to balance your energy better. I'm working on it, Mushroom, but thanks for that. That felt very pointed. All right, anyways, let's take a look at Mushroom in the Dusk guidebook. So this would be more, I'm guessing, self-care focused, as I understand it. So here it says, most funguses grow underground and emerge on the surface to form bands of mushroom commonly known as fairy rings. Common lore suggests that stepping into these rings will put you in danger of being ensnared by fairies, so watch your step. Drawing these cards suggests that decisions you've made in the past are already starting to take effect, and for better or worse, you can't change them now. If it transpires that you've made the wrong choice, now is the time to learn from it and make a better decision next time, or you'll be stuck in a never-ending circle of repeating your errors. Now, right away, I can tell you that both guidebooks gave us a little bit of tidbit about the mushroom. It didn't just give us a meaning with no explanation. It told us a little bit about this plant and how you kind of were able to ascertain how that applied to the meaning. So let's do the same thing for moonwort over here. So let's take a look again at Dawn first and look at card number 15, Moonwort. So Dawn says, a commonly cited magical property of the moonwort fern is the power to pierce iron. Seriously? There is said to be a hill in Devon in the UK so covered in moonwort that 30 freshly shod horses belonging to the Earl of Essex once lost their horseshoes whilst being ridden across it. Like moonwort, you can find inside of you the power to conquer any hurdle that stands in your way. You may feel small and easily trampled, but every barrier that stops you from moving forward has its weak point. Embrace your own inner strength and find it. Oh, I love that. And let's take a look at the Dusk guidebook, which again, more focused, I think, on self-care, rejuvenation, gentleness. Let's see. We want card 14, 15. Moonwort. Moonwort ferns have many magical properties ascribed to them, but one of the most prominent is their ability to undo or destroy any lock. Our minds are skilled at hiding away old griefs, unwanted feelings, and even stressful memories. But in the long term, these will become dangerous, and now is the time to make sense of them. Take this opportunity to unlock those hidden spaces and clear out some of the cobwebs. Oh my gosh, these are so good. Okay, so here's some thoughts I have about these. getting a feel for the messages in the guidebooks, here's what I would say right off the bat. I would probably work with this deck with one or the other. I definitely would not layer the meanings. Okay, I gave you both readings for each card so we could get an example or get a feeling for how each of these guidebooks reads. But I really would treat it almost as if you're working with two different decks. Like if you're working on, like, say, self-care and sort of internal balancing kind of work, I would probably lean into Dusk. But if I was wanting more action-oriented advice, I would probably lean into Dawn. And I would literally treat it almost like two separate decks. It's almost as if, I mean, I've seen decks packaged this way where you have a slight variation in the artwork. Like like for example, I have the Deviant Moon Tarot by Patrick Valenza, and I have the classic borderless edition, and I also have the paradoxical. And in theory, having two colorations of the same deck, it kind of helps you mentally separate them and use them maybe for different purposes. Here, instead of wasting the card stock and having two separate decks, we have a single deck that can be used in two completely different ways. And I was not sure if the messages were going to feel repetitive, but they definitely don't. So I really feel like you're going to have a whole different experience with this deck, working with it with the Dawn guidebook, than you will working with it with the Dusk guidebook, which I think is so freaking cool. And I think it's also really innovative, and I get very excited about creators in this industry doing different things and being very innovative in that way. So props to the creator, Fez Inkwright, and to Liminal 11 for publishing this in the way that you did. I think it's really clever. And I feel like this deck could be incredibly useful, particularly for those of us who like to, say, pull a card and read a prompt and then maybe journal about it or work with it. This would be a great deck for reading for yourself. I don't think I would use this deck to read for others because I don't have keywords to work with the deck intuitively. So I would use this deck for myself. I would lean into the guidebook, that sort of thing. Or if I were to use this with clients, it would be to reference the guidebook, which is something that I would only do as like a little bonus kind of thing. I wouldn't make it like the focus of a reading, but that's just me and how I prefer to work when it comes to reading for myself versus clients. But as far as reading for myself, I feel like this deck has a lot to offer, and I'm excited to play with it and kind of put it through its paces and maybe see, do I have a preference for one of these approaches versus the other? I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see. They both seemed really good. So if you are looking for this deck, I will have a link down below where you can order it from Amazon. I will also have a link to Liminal 11's site. I do believe there is either a pre-order coming up or one already open for a limited edition of this deck. So I will have that information down below. And thank you again so much for hanging out with me while I took a little tour through the Seed and Sickle Oracle deck by Fez Inkwright, published by Liminal 11. As always, thank you to Liminal 11 for sending me these decks so that I can check them out in person and share them with all of you guys. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. As always, do remember to click the like button if you enjoyed this video or you found value in it. Subscribe if you're new here, and don't forget to click that notification bell so you're notified of all my future videos. Thank you again so much, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, guys!